Welcome to Death by Dragons. Apologies for the lack of battle reports for the last several weeks. This was not for the want of trying. I have twice now gone to record a battle report. One of them was I fully recorded it. We filmed it. It takes quite a lot to record a video battle report. It's a pain. So we recorded the whole battle report. I edited it, put it up, and then my opponent unfortunately decided that he didn't want me to put the battle report up, and that's fine. You know, I can't force people to go to have their face put on the internet. It was actually a prep battle for this tournament, so that was a bit of a shame. I then went again to a different friend to record a battle report, who then said, "Oh no, I don't want a video," because he said they were cringy, which is very very hurtful. It's fine, I'm not that particularly bothered. So I said, fair enough, tell you what, we'll just do pictures. I'll do a picture battle report, it's better than nothing. And then we ran out of time on turn 4, so I couldn't do that one either. So, sorry. What you have is another tournament report. So this is a tournament report for Battlemasters, which is a 1-day, 4-game, 2,500 point tournament, which is held in Loughborough in the UK. It is the world's longest running independent tournament for Kings of War. Has been running since before version 1 rules were released, which is really cool. It was a 22-person tournament. And once again, I would like to give my utter appreciation to Visibly Riley. Go and check out his YouTube channel if you haven't. He's the most consistent battle reporter on YouTube for Kings of War, because I am doing this in his style, as in with the drawing on the maps and all that kind of stuff. Just to give you an idea. So I have copied him entirely. I thoroughly admit that. And I give all credit to him for being an awesome guy. So, on to my list that I took to Battlemasters. So, here is my list. 2,500 points of Ratkin. It gets you a lot of rats. So, we started with a horde of tunnel slaves and 2 regiments of tunnel slaves. We then went with a traditional horde of shock troops with a brew of sharpness, and then 4 hordes of blight. If you're wondering, I do not have 4 hordes of blight models. So my army is it's a fully Mantic army. They're generally the Warpath miniatures, hence this Warpath image, because there aren't any Ratkin images. So I have borrowed 2 GW hordes, to my eternal shame. So 4 hordes of blight. One of them has Brew of Strength, 1 has Hammer of Measured Force, and 2 of them are Vanilla Blight, my favourite flavour of blight, if you're interested. I took 3 troops of Claw Shots, which were money. This whole tournament, Claw Shots, it's the future. 3 weapon teams with Piercing, because they're also brilliant. A Warlock with Bane Chant, Alchemist Curse. He comes with Lightning Bolt 5 normally. 2 Swarm Criers, so 1 has the Diadem, 1 has the Loot for Bane Chanting. And the Demon Spawn. So the idea of this army, so I'm not the greatest player in the world, as you will know if you have watched any of my battle reports. And at this tournament there were some exceptional players. However, what I needed was an army that I could move quickly, because this tournament was 2,500 points, had some special rules. So it was only 6 turns, but you only had 55 minutes per player. That is not really enough to move a 2,500 point army around. You know, it was going to be extremely tight. So I need an army that I could just shove forward. So the principle of this is slaves at the front. You know, if I haven't got enough slaves, then blight, just vanilla blight. You put something punchy or shooty behind some hordes of blight. Either the shock troops or the weapon teams or the demon spawn. And then you let them run onto you, preferably in terrain, into the ensnare of the blight. And then you shoot them off. Right, so that's the whole principle of the army. If there's anything particularly combaty that punches through, the shock troops take care of them, or the demon spawn. So I tended to run the weapon teams and the swarm crier with the diadem together, put the claw shot somewhere advantageous, and then put the warlock somewhere floating around to add his lightning bolt to the demon spawn's lightning bolt. Okay, so that's the principle of my rat army. So game 1. Interesting story. Game 1, I was supposed to be drawn against UK number 1, Tom Robinson. He's currently number 2, but generally one of the best players. Excuse me. But the draw was redrawn because of some player changes, and I was not against him. So my game 1 was against Spartans. So my opponent bought a historical army, 2,500 pounds of Spartans with Macedonian and successor allies. So this was pretty fun, and it was a really nice looking army. And then we're setting up for game one, and I hear this shout of "For the king!" from across the hall we're playing in, and I turn around. Oh, here's a spot. Ah, fuck my life. So game one was versus Spartans. It's a funny story. I was supposed to be drawn against a guy called Tom Robinson, who is one of the best players in the country, if not the world. So I was steeling myself for that, and then all of a sudden it was changed because of some player changes. The draw was changed, and so I was up against a different player who bought Spartans and they're with some Macedonian and successor allies. Okay, so it's really interesting to go against historical army, especially one you've never played against. And it's quite nice. He wrote a little story on his army sheet about how they were drawn again through a dimensional portal. And he says, before him he saw an army of half man, half rat. What had Zeus done to these wretched people? It's quite cool anyway, so it's fun. So, 2,500 points of gorgeously painted Spartans! And with Macedonian allies. So this is his Spartans, and I will explain the units. You may not be familiar with historicals. I certainly wasn't familiar with this army. So, he has 2 hordes of heavy spearmen. So heavy spearmen are a infantry horde with 30 attacks, defense 5, melee 3+, 21, 23. So they're already pretty punchy, right? However, because it's historicals, if you pay 25 points per horde, you give them headstrong and elite. Plus, he's given each of them brew of strength or brew of sharpness. So one of them is now hitting on 2s, and the other one is now with crushing strength. So the elite headstrong, they have phalanx, by the way, hitting on 3s or 2s. And because he's historicals, he has put musicians in. So he's got a troop of cavalry. So they're just a kind of chaffy troop of cavalry. Defense 4, speed 9, nimble with thunderous charge. And then he's got a musician with the lute. So musician is +2 rallying. Okay, so those hordes are now 23, 25. That's a lot of meat. At defense 5, hitting on 3s or 2s. Ouch. He has a 1 regiment. Excuse the wrong plural there, of Spartan Royal Guard. So Spartan Royal Guard are a special unit. You can get loads of them actually, but they are dash 17, elite with phalanx, hitting on 3s, defense 5. And he's given them brew of courage, so they're now dash 18. He has 1 king. So there's 2 there because you can have 2 of them if you really want to. He did not. So he has a king. He's actually 170 points, which is a lot, but he's a dash 15. Crush 1, rallying 1, very inspiring. So that's actually the only inspiring hero in his whole army, apart from his mystical allies, which I'll show you shortly. So there they are, a horde of winged. So these are basically Elohi. They're Elohi that he's given blessing of the gods to for elite. Okay, so why not bring Elohi with your giant hordes of infantry? No, so they're basically identical. Dash 17, so on and so forth. A giant who is just a giant, as in the normal rulebook, and an evil sorcerer. So evil sorcerers come with Bane Chant 2, but he's also given him heal 3 and Shroud of the Same. Okay, so he's now a heal 6, something like that. So the Macedonian and successor allies. Now, I genuinely think he bought these because he wanted to run elephants, because he had a unit of elephants. So he had a regiment of war elephants, which look really impressive on the battlefield. So at regiment size, they're still an 1822, but they're height 4. Crush 2, Strider. They have 6 attacks with throwing weapons. Ooh. So range 12 and thunderous charge 2. Melee 4, defense 5. Right, so throwing weapons hit on 5s as well, so not that great. But yeah, pretty nice, tasty. And he bought, and so part of the rules, if you bought allies, you had to bring a hero with your allies. So the musician he bought along. So those elephants are now 2024. Ridiculous. So there you go. A troop of Thracian peltasts, which is easy for you to say, and they are skirmishers. So skirmishers is a unit, so there's a troop, but they are treated as an individual. Okay, so they can turn and hit anywhere they like, blah, 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 blah. They're speed 5, they have throwing weapons, and they kind of suck. And then a regiment of companion cavalry. So these are speed 9, melee 3, defense 4, 14, 16 nerve. They're 200 points, but they're elite, nimble, and have thunderous charge 2. So, another punchy unit. So this army is pretty good. I gotta say, it's very punchy. It's got a flying unit. It's got some heroes. There's not a lot of inspiring, but given that everything is like nerve 25, or in the case of the elephants, what are they? 2024. You know, pretty punchy. So yeah, so that's what he bought. Right, this is what he looked like. Now, I did ask him for permission to put this on the internet. I was just setting up the army and I heard this scream of, "For the king!" I turn around and there's my opponent in full costume with plastic abs. It was pretty hilarious. And he kept that on for the whole tournament. And there we are together, screaming Sparta. Sparta! Which is what we did every time anything happened. So that was pretty funny. So this was the battlefield. I'll talk about the scenario in a minute, but let's just quickly run through the battlefield. A lot of the battlefields here aren't your typical standard tournament battlefields because that's how the tournament organizer likes to run it. So you will see a number of things you don't normally see. So we have 2 height 4 forests. That's okay. We have a height 0 piece of terrain in the middle of the battlefield. And then we have 3 height 3 obstacles. And then 2 height 2 hills. Now, you may notice these are in the deployment zones, which you don't usually see. So you can take 2 guesses where my claw shots are going. Just stick them on a hill. So if you happen to bring artillery or a ranged unit, you have kind of an advantage in this scenario. And then there are 3 height 4 obstacles, so one right in the middle of the battlefield with a bunch of terrain around it, so that makes things difficult. So the scenario we were playing was a special scenario for the tournament. The tournament organizer got a lot of stick for this scenario, it's fair to say. I will try to explain it as best I can. It's kind of confusing. There are 2 tokens each on the battlefield, and they are objectives, but they are treated as loot counters. Okay, so your opponent places the objectives on your side of the field, and those are the ones you're trying to get. Your opponent's objectives that you place on his side of the board are worthless to you. If you are holding the objective / loot token, it is a point to you. Okay, so if you have both of your objectives, you have 2 points. If you carry, so the idea of it is you're trying to capture intelligence and take it across the lines. You've been caught behind the lines, right? Something like that. So you're trying to pick up your token and get it over the opposing long edge of the battlefield. If you achieve that, you get 3 points. And to win, you have to get a 2-point margin. All right. So if you are holding both objectives and your opponent has none, you win. If he's got 1, it's a draw. Yeah. If you get 1 token over the edge of the battlefield and you're holding 1, you've got 4 points. So then your objective has to get 1 over, or you win. Right? Get the idea? The flaw in this is this is what we did. So these are my tokens. So you'll see he's placed 1 of my tokens right in front of a piece of scenery. That makes it nearly impossible for me to get that token and get across the battlefield. And I've done the same thing. So his are here in front of his impassable scenery. So automatically now, you need to have a murder town or it's going to be a draw. So there you go. That's what we did. Okay then, let's go on to deployment. Apologies for my opponent's army being on the table, but we didn't have a lot of room. So there you go. You can live with it, right? Okay, so my opponent won the... No, I won the roll for sides, I think. It's not important. It was a pretty even battlefield. So he deployed like this. So he has got his unit of cavalry. So these are the nimble troop of cavalry, speed 9, right on the far left. And then, so these are the 2 giant hordes. So the one on the left is the one with strength, with the kind of altar in the middle, and the one on the right is the one with sharpness. These were all metal, by the way. They were weighty, pretty nice. The guy in the middle is the king. Have I got my pen? I have not. There's activated pen. Woohoo! Live there. So these guys have got strength. These have got sharpness. This is the king. Okay. This is obviously the giant here, and this is the unit of Thracian Peltas. So these are the skirmisher unit. So this then is the Spartan Royal Guard, this regiment here. And behind them here is the Magician. This guy is the Evil Sorcerer. So he is the guy with heal. And then over here you can see you have the unit of Elohi, or Winged Warriors. There they are, looking pretty nice. Pretty nice army. Then on this side we have the companion cavalry. So this is the very punchy cavalry. Elite Nimble Thunderous Charge 2, hitting on 3s. And this is the Regiment of War Elephants. So he has loaded quite a lot into his right-hand flank of the very punchy stuff. Mind you, all of his stuff is pretty punchy. So this is how I deployed in response. So, seeing all the elephants, I think I was rather overwhelmed. So I really heavily loaded the left flank, my right flank. So to be honest, I think I overloaded it, but we'll see how we go. So this multi-base GW unit is the Vanilla Blight, and behind them these are the Brew of Strength Blights. These are my blight that I have made. Hey! And in front of all of them is a nice unit of slaves. Then we have 1, 2, 3 weapon teams and the Swarm Crier with the Diadem. This is my most killy block. They are deceptively killy. Yeah, 40 breath and 30 of it's got piercing, which is awesome. But I really didn't need it here anyway. And over here we have another unit of slaves and another unit of Vanilla Blight, which I borrowed off my friend because I did not have enough. These ones are really old school Skaven, so there you go. So that is my right hand flank, which is facing off against my opponent's kind of Elohi and all that stuff. Then we have the horde of shock troops here. No, we don't. This is a horde of slaves. This is my tunnel slaves. They're in a tunnel, you can see. Behind them is the loot standard bearer, and this is the shock troops, this unit here. Next to them, we have the 3 claw shots, as you can see, all perched upon a hill, which is handling my deployment zone. So there's 15 shots on 4s with piercing 2, which is nice. Whoops. And then this is the other unit. So this is the other Blight. This is the one with Hammer of Measured Force. There's not a lot on his left flank. He's only got his cavalry. And so my plan here is just to kind of push forward and try and flank around them. Behind them is the Demon Spawn. If you're running one of this little base, it's because my model's broke and I'm just glued it and he's just holding him up. Alright, so that's how we deployed. On to turn 1. Blurry shot of turn 1 dice. So my opponent won the round, won the roll, and he immediately pushed forward because that's what you do with his army, which seems pretty sensible. So this is his Nimble Cavalry, which has moved up here because they want to come and pick up this token, which is the token I put behind this big building. His Giant and the Skirmishers moved up in support to stop me killing them, and then his 2 Giant hordes just kind of walked forward. I don't care about this terrain because they all hit on the 3s or 2s already. Then his Royal Guard moved up here and they picked up the other token, which was here. I think you pick it up at the beginning of the round or the end of your movement. End of your movement, yeah. With a musician in support, and then the Elohi, Cavalry and Elephants just kind of all moved up. That's his leather-clad hand putting the musician up behind them, so there's an 18, 20 and stupid amounts of nerve. So the main worry is these Elohi now could just kind of zoom in over here and do whatever they want to my troops, which is okay, I guess. But I don't particularly want them to because they're elite hitting on 3s and they are as punchy as Elohi are. So that was his turn 1. So in response, seeing an opportunity because there was just not a lot here. So his Giant is pretty much the only killy thing here that can see. This is right up here. You see the edge of his horde, but basically the line of sight was down here. And very far away. So the Demon jumps forward 10 and turns, so nothing can see him and he can Lightning Bolt with this horde of Blight in support. Clawshots didn't do anything. Did I not show you the Warlock? The Warlock was around here, so I think he was hiding behind this wall here. He moved onto the hill, so he's Lightning Bolt as well. And then we moved up. So these are his killy hordes. This is the Beast of Terrain that he doesn't care about, and this is my horde of Tunnel Slaves, which have just moved up to basically get killed. So I have picked up this token, which is mine, and I think I dropped it immediately. Picked up or dropped it? I think you pick up at the beginning of the turn. Right, you pick up at the beginning of the turn, so if I was still there I could pick it up next turn. And then I've moved the shock troops. So I've moved the shock troops and turned them so that the Elohi can come in. They're unlikely to kill me in one go, I hope. And that's really the best target for them. They can't hit anything else. So then on my heavily overloaded flank, I have moved both Tunnel Slave units forward 12 up to here, right? So blocking and blocking. So it doesn't really block the flying Elohi, it blocks this cavalry and it blocks the elephant. So they're going to have to go into me next turn, which gives me some support because behind them I've got a horde of Blight, and then a horde of Blight with strength. This is too much. Definitely not, because I got this here, okay? If I didn't put the weapon teams here, this would be a bit of a problem. As it is, the weapon teams could have been much better spent over here doing some killing, and I could just gummed up with Blight, because what I've got here is a lovely forest. The elephants do have Strider, but Blight have got Ensnare. They only hit on 4s, so this would have been a good bet. Really, I could have just put an extra horde of Blight over in the middle, because this Blight horde with strength is quite killy, 30 attacks. Anyway, that's what I did in my turn 1. And you can see I have already used 10 minutes of my clock deploying in turn 1. So that gives you an idea of how much the clocks tick. Right, so shooting wise, we used lightning bolts and the claw shots. We put 3 wounds onto this unit of cavalry. Wasn't enough to kill them, unfortunately. My opponent used tokens. Now, I get why people might want to use tokens, because sometimes you pick up dice by mistake. I find it really confusing because, okay, in this case, reds are 1s, blues are 5, right? Except that sometimes we've got it the wrong way around. So you'll see it gets really confusing. I hate them. Please don't use tokens. I'm begging you. If you're a tournament player, don't use tokens. Just use a different type of dice so you don't pick it up by mistake. It's so much clearer. Anyway, moaning over. So we put 7 points of damage onto the giant. Wasn't enough to do anything because he's got a lot of nerve. And then we shot all the weapon teams and the Swarmcry into the elephants and did 10 points of damage to them. Wasn't enough to get a waiver or anything, but that is a good amount. You can see what's going to happen on this flank. On to turn 2. You know, it was quite distracting and hilarious. So there you go. So turn 2. The horde of the troop of cavalry moved onto the token and picked it up. The skirmisher unit kind of moved down here. The giant turned a little bit, so he stayed there just a turn to offer some threat, because my demon is obviously going to try and come in and get a flank. And then both hordes of killy, super killy infantry went into my poor little tunnel slaves, who just kind of sat there. Then, having picked up this token, you can see it here. The Royal Guard moved out from behind the tower, and he's got his characters and support here. So this is the Inspiring Rallying, and that is the Wizard who can heal. Then, as predicted, excuse the blurry photo, the Elohi came from here, went right into my shock troops. And both of these units, the Companion Cavalry and the Elephants, went into these poor tunnel slaves that I have thrown into the fire. And he's got his musician there supporting. I think that's another musician as well. I'm not sure what he's doing there. So that was my opponent's turn. Let's see how much he did. So, he healed some damage. So he healed 3 damage off of his giant. And he did 12 damage with the Elohi onto the shock troops, but could not get a waiver or a kill, and so he bounced. So that unit is going to get it next turn. Now you can see here, the 2 units of super killy infantry did 36 points of damage to my tunnel slaves. And you can just see underneath his wrist, his leather-clad wrist here, the first of 2 1s that he rolled. So he double wonned that charge. Now I felt really bad here because when we were joking or having a chat about his outfit, he said, "Does this mean I get a tournament reroll?" So there is no tournament reroll in this tournament. I went, "Yeah, sure." I was joking. And so he rolled this double 1 and went, "Can I use my tournament reroll?" And I looked at him and went, "No, I thought you were joking." I felt really bad. I felt really bad because I think he genuinely thought he was going to get a tournament reroll. But I don't think, there's no sports votes in our tournaments, but I probably wouldn't have gotten one here because he was being a super, he wore a whole costume and everything, right? But no one else in that tournament got a tournament reroll, and I don't think it would have been incredibly fair. So I did say no, and I felt really bad, but there you go. It happens. I'm a bad sport. You can all hate me. So they bounced, and there is him bouncing them. This unit of slaves evaporated in the face of that cavalry. However, the elephants flubbed it. 8 wounds, couldn't roll enough to kill them. He did get a waiver onto my slaves, which I don't care about. So that's very good, because my weapon teams are here. They're all height 1. Elephants, despite being a regiment of large cavalry, are height 4. So there is no cover from breath weapons. So, on to my turn 2. So, this Horde of Blight went into the cavalry. It's just a vanilla Blight, but it's enough to gum them up for a while. We left the slaves there, moved all the weapon teams up because we are going to blow these elephants up. This unit of regular blights are moved up in turns because I want to come and get this token. But realistically, turn 3 is 1 turn too late to pick up a token. And then realizing that I have way overloaded this flank, the blight horde with strength, I just turned them because what I wanted to do is try and get them over here as soon as possible because they are in the wrong place. I'm pretty much going to clean up this flank and there's not a lot he can do about it. But there you go, that's my mistake in deployment. So over here, the demon took the flank that was available on this horde here. Demon, very, very punchy. He's 13 attacks, so 26 in the flank on 3s and 2s. If he wasn't a 23-25, I'd be confident of blowing them off. As it is, I'm just kind of a little bit nervous about it, so we shall see. The measured force blight went into this tiny skirmisher troop because we don't care about it. We just want to get rid of it so he doesn't come and kill my claw shots. And the shock troops countercharged the Elohi. So let's look at what we did. What does this even mean? So I think these... Okay, that might... This is... I think this is 21 points of damage. It might not be, because I only got 26 attacks. It might be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points of damage. This is why I don't like tokens. FYI. Alright? Anyway, we did some damage. We didn't waver them. Meh, there you go. The skirmishers took 5, but that is definitely a 5. 5 points damage, but didn't die, which is annoying because they're a 9-11. So my rolling not great here. And all my shooting put an extra 5 points of damage onto the giant. So he is now on 10, but could not get a waiver. So there you go. Not very successful. Oh, there you go. Oh yeah, 5 points damage and a waiver onto the skirmishers. So they are wavered. There you go. 9-11. So I have 5. I must have rolled a 4 or a 5. Rubbish. And then on the right hand flank, excuse the blurry photo, but as I've explained, time pressures. I was trying to take photos really fast. The blight just rolled incredibly well and destroyed the cavalry, and all my shooting blew the elephants off the map. So all he's got on this right flank now is a musician. Which is fine, but I've got 3 turns left to get this token all the way across the board, and you can only move at 5, right? You can be surged, you can be wind blasted with these tokens. I didn't know, and neither did my opponent, individuals could pick up these tokens, because the problem is I'm in terrain here and there's terrain here. I can't move at the double like that because I'm going to hit the terrain. These guys are going to have to move and turn to pick it up, and then they're not going to get across the board quick enough, right? However, I've got a standard bearer here. If I'd have known, he could have gone and picked it up last turn, and he could have shot across and I could have got him out. Anyway, we didn't know, and only found out after the game when somebody else asked for their game. So there you go. Wah, wah, wah. So anyway, that was my turn 2. On to turn 3. So, the demon, unfortunately, not having managed to do anything useful, took a counter charge from the unit of killer monster dudes and the giant. So he's going to blow up. The unit of skirmishers is actually, I believe, has fury. Right, has fury, so that waiver meant nothing, and he went back into my blight. It's irrelevant because they are a -21. In fact, they're a -23 as long as the demon's alive, so there you go. And then the other unit of super killy infantry went back into the slaves that they should have killed last turn, with all the characters there behind them. And that musician legged it. Like the coward he is. Oh, did I say that I must not have taken a screenshot. Sorry, so the yellow he died. Yeah. So there you go. The demon got killed. He was here. He's not there anymore because he couldn't really manage to survive that. And of course, the slaves finally died, and that's him repositioning his infantry. And 4 points of damage from that scope, which is pretty respectable in ensnaring. 4 points of ensnaring damage into the blight with measured force, which are actually a shock troop horde that I've just put some mist on. So there you go. What's that all about? Right, so he healed. Is this onto my turn now? I think it might be. Now my question is, I have not taken any photographs of my turn. Hang on a second. Turn 3. They went into me. They went into me. Right, I don't think I took many photographs on my turn 3. Apologies. However, somehow... Right, so this is the measured force blight, which is somehow into a unit of infantry. But if you see here, that's not possible because you've still got this little unit here. So there's no way they could have got into this unit of infantry, right? I don't know. Honestly, can't remember. Somehow they went up to, so we've got the right tokens on there on 19 points of damage, right? So they got some healing done, and they took a waiver, but they have headstrong, so it's irrelevant. Turn 4 for my opponent. Right. So this is what's happened. On the left. I wonder if it was possible for me to pivot and turn and get a corner onto this unit. I don't think it was. Maybe we'll never know. Whatever, they ended up with 19 points of damage. They were already on 20 whatever, 21 before, and they've had some healing, so rubbish. And you can see there that my shock troops had gone into the other super killy Brew of Sharpness horde and had done 11 points of damage over a wall. Oh, not over a wall, because look how clever I've been. So I popped my standard bearer here, so that when they charged in, they were unhindered, so they were still hitting on 3s. So 3s and 4s, though, because I think I failed the roll for Bane Chant from the standard bearer. So, wow. So anyway, we did 11 points of damage, which is not enough against this horde because they're a dash 25. And they went, so the other horde went back into this blight with ensnare, so they'll be hitting on 4s. Yeah, so the thing is, things were moving at such a pace, that's why there's not many good photographs, so really apologies for that. So there's a bunch of dice there, because I basically just chucked them down to show the fact there was 30 damage, and I couldn't be bothered to count out the correct damage. There was 30 damage onto my shock troops, who at the time were carrying my token, if you can see here. So he's now going to steal that token and have it, which is poor for me. And anyway, he killed them immediately. Boo! And he killed them too. So these killy hordes proving to be very killy. You can see up the back here, which I have not taken a photograph of, his horde of palace, whatever they're called, royal doodahs, Spartan Royal Guard. They'd taken their token, they'd moved across and picked up the other one, so they now have 2 tokens. So he is currently scoring 2, I am currently scoring 1. It's still a draw, because although he's taken my token, you have to win by 2. There is no feasible way in 2 turns he can get this unit across the board. He cannot win that way. The only way he can win is by taking the other token, which he's not going to do. So even at turn 4, we're looking at it going, this is a draw. Rubbish. I would say in this tournament, though, there was up to 10 extra tournament points available for kills. So that's pretty cool. So even if you lose and get 0, you can still get 10 tournament points. If you draw and get 5 points, you can get up to 15. And a win is 10. So the maximum points you can score is 20. Yeah. So you can get 15, even if you draw. There you go. If you kill everything. And that's how he reformed. So he's got 16 points of damage on this horde because he healed them. 11 points of damage on this horde. Okay. And there's the 2 tokens on that unit there, right? Who have got 5 damage because I've shot them a bit. So over here, blurry screenshot again because we were in a rush. I've explained that 7 times. I'm not going to explain it again. I thought of various ways I could do this, passing tokens from unit to unit. It wasn't going to work. I got the token onto this unit of blight. I moved it up as far as I could. And this unit of slaves just moved here. Nothing to do with them really. They had 6 points of damage or 8 points of damage. But, you know, they're kind of out of the game. Whereas this horde is now turned that way. You can just see the corner of it to try and provide some support against the killy units there. So then with my shooting, we put some more points of damage on. So they are now up to 14 points of damage, but not enough. And they're up to 16 points of damage there. Still not enough. Wow. Really super blurry dice for turn 5. So opponent's turn 5, this horde charged across the fence into my claw shots here. Just trying to take out some of that shooting. He has done his best to get this unit across, but we've realised he cannot get the unit down here quick enough, so he's just sticking it in a forest. Because actually, if I do manage to get this token back off his horde up here, and kill his royal guard here, I can still win 2-0. Woo! Excitement. However, he heals them again, and they go down to 6, which is rubbish for me. There you go. So that is the shot of the claw shots being taken off, because obviously a 8-10 unit is not going to survive a super killy horde of death. And that's me there in my turn 5, shoving this blight as far forward as possible. There is no way they can reach anything. And I've moved all of my weapon teams over here to just try and kill this unit that's got my token. Anyway. So we put all of our shooting into this unit, which is quite a lot. We do put them up to 14 points of damage, which is not enough because they're in cover. And I double one it. So took a photo of the double one because why not? And then the rest of my units, so the lightning bolts, etc., shot into this one. They are now on 21 points of damage, and I couldn't kill them. Oh, I did kill them! Look at that! That's an action shot of, I've done 21 points of damage. Roll the nerve. They're dead! Yay! Anyway, for attrition points, that's great, because they are worth, gosh, quite a lot. 335 points that unit's worth. That's more than most dragons, so wow, not bad. On to turn 6, so this is the last turn. At this point we had about a minute on the clock left each. He sent his horde into my Brew of Strength Blight, who's managed to come over. He hid them further into the forest, realising that he was not going to be able to do anything useful with them. He just needs them to not die. He did, thanks very much for that. He did 13 points of damage to the Blight and didn't waver them because they're a dash 21. His king charged into this unit of claw shots, did 1 point of damage, which was terrible. And then on my turn, I countercharged both units of Blight into his horde. I shot at his dudes in the forest for 3 points of damage. Or is that 15? 3. Tokens, guys. Don't use them. Whatever. And then we countercharge the king. These guys move forward pointlessly. We did 18 points of damage and only managed a waver on the dash 20 on the 23-25 unit. So crappy dice right at the end. Otherwise, I would have got my token back. It was pointless because I didn't kill his other unit. And yeah, just for the points, he charged his little musician into my unit of slaves and didn't kill them. So yeah, disappointing. It was a draw at the end. It was a super fun game, but that was my game 1. So the kill points worked out pretty heavy because we killed a lot. So I got 7 out of a possible 10. He got 5 out of a possible 10. So it ended up a 12-10 draw to me. Moving on then, game 2. So on to game 2. Game 2 was against a guy that I have not met before. Really nice, but lives quite near me. So we may meet up for a game. I hope we do. And he was playing Dwarves with Ogre allies. Now, to explain his army, he basically said, I've bought the army that I could make with the models that I've got. And I'm like, I respect that. I completely respect that because this is a lot of models to bring. And this was his list, and it explains why he has Ogre allies, because he had some really cool kind of mammoth chariot things that you'll see in a bit later that I really liked. So this was his army. He had a regiment of bulwarkers and a horde of bulwarkers with the healing brew, which I'm not sure he used actually. Maybe he did. 2 regiments of ironclad, a troop of sharpshooters, just the 1 regiment of berserker rock riders with a brew of haste, 2 iron belch organ guns, 2 standard bearers, one of whom had the healing charm, so that gives him heal 3, I think, and one of them had the warbow of Kaba. So you'll see that he clusters the sharpshooters, the organ guns, and the standard bearer with the warbow together as like a ranged unit, which is quite neat. King with the wings, standard, and the wall of iron. So I think the ironclad and the bulwarkers get iron resolve, and then vanilla steel behemoth. And then he took Kragoth, but weirdly didn't take the battle driller that goes with him. And I kind of think if you're going to take that kind of character that has a linked ability, the same in Abyssal Dwarfs, you kind of want to take the other one, but that's just me. And then he had 2 hordes of ogre chariots with a standard bearer on a chariot. So I kind of get the chariot's kind of like a fast moving, hitty kind of arm, but Brock Riders are better, aren't they? But I guess you don't have the models, that's the way it is, so that's what he took. Yeah, so let's go on to deployment. So this was the board. As you can see, right, there's a hill right over here on the left hand side, and it is in a deployment zone again. Now, oh no, is it? I think it's just outside of a deployment zone, this one. Right, this is just outside the deployment zone. So it's got a bit of flat terrain in the middle, and it has these 4 height 1 obstacles. And then it's got these 2 height 4 forests kind of spread on the other side. And then there's this giant house right in the middle, right? And so we had a little chat, and we said, all right, right to the edge of that square board is the blocking terrain, not just the house. Because if you look at it, there's like some stones and a little tree, so it's too confusing. So we said, all right, let's just go with the whole thing. The whole thing is the huge piece of blocking terrain right in the middle of the board. The scenario we're playing was an objective-based scenario. So you place 3 tokens on your opponent's half of the board, 12 inches apart. If you capture the objectives you've placed on your opponent's half, they're 2 points each. If you capture the objectives on your own half, it's 1 point each. Okay? So this is where we place them. So there's mine. No, that's his. Right, so he placed these 3 here. So there's one just off this photograph, just on the right-hand side of the board there. So they're all clustered on this right-hand side. So that's where he wants to fight the battle. So in response, I've placed mine here. So I've really spread them. I've got a much bigger army. And I can really kind of make use of the space, whereas he's trying to cluster in with his kind of more kind of slow-moving force. And I then chose sides and won the side of the board that we're facing on. Now, I'm going to say before we start this battle, I think for my opponent this was actually a really bad matchup. His army is slow. It doesn't have that many punchy units. It's got a lot of hitting on 4s. It doesn't want to meet a load of ensnare. And especially not a horde army, and especially not when it comes to capturing objectives. So he's going to have to somehow push with his speed 4 stuff through my army to get to his objectives. That's a tough ask. Plus, I've chosen this side of the board, because it means I can get over those obstacles, and I've got a lovely height flat to go and stick some blight in. Yeah, so I think this was a poor matchup. And I also won first turn. So let's have a look at the deployment first. So on the left-hand flank, that's my token right in the front. I made that token. Isn't it awesome? You have to say it's awesome. It's my channel. So that is his horde of bulwarkers and one of the ironclad regiments, and that is the Healing Brew standard bearer in the middle. So nice to see a fully mantic, full model count army. And then in the middle, so that's the other one of my tokens. So across from that kind of that patch of ground between the 2 blocking terrains, he has got the... Oh, I've got pen! Let's bring the pen. Thank you, Visibly Riley. These are the other ironclad. No, one of them is the Iron Guard. Now, which one is the Iron Guard? The one with the spears. Yeah. This one is the defense, the higher defense unit, or whatever they're called. Bulwarkers. This is the bulwarkers. Sharpshooters, organ guns, and this guy has got the warbow. That's his behemoth, and that's the ironclad, right? And then into the forest. So there he has his Brock regiment with the Brew of Haste. This guy's the king with the wings. And then this is 1 regiment of chariots and 2 regiment of chariots with the standard bearer in between them, right? So this is, you can see why I wanted to use these models. They're really cool. They are super cool. I love them. So that was his deployment. So against that on the left-hand side, so this is where his chariots are. So his chariots and his Brock riders. So this is he's planning with this flank to just kind of smash through. So this is where all of his main objectives are, right? So against that, I have put this wall of death, and this is not great for him. So we have slaves and slaves, right? So he can run to those all day, smash them off, doesn't matter, because behind the slaves there are 3 weapon teams here, all 3 claw shots, and a horde of blight. So the plan here is pretty obvious. I'm just going to put the slaves into him, shoot, then the blight into him, and shoot some more until everything is dead. So then, facing towards the middle, we have the horde of slaves here. Behind them, hiding here, is a warlock and the standard bearer with the loot. The other standard bearer, sorry, is... You see a little standard here. peeking out. That's the diadem standard bearer hiding behind this slave unit. So we've got the shock troops, and this is the Brewer of Strength Blight in the middle. So that's, again, I'm just going to tie him up with these units. And, well, I'm going to force him to charge into my slaves. And then I'm going to blight and shock troops. These are my most punchy units, right? These two. So they are going to go in once he's bounced or killed the slaves. I've put the demon right behind the house. This is the giant house here. And I've worked out, because I deployed him last, if you look at what he's put behind the house, you see here, right? So this is to the left of the house, and they are facing this way. So their field of view is about here. Okay? And then to the left, these guys are facing forwards here. So here's my rat. I've worked out if I just go 20 forwards, he will not be able to see me. Symbols. And then on the right hand side, is another picture? There's another picture. We have 2 hordes of blight. These guys have got hammer and measure force. So against his defense 6 horde, I'm just going to let him bounce off me. I don't think those 2 units will be able to kill both of these in 6 turns, if I'm being frank, not hitting on 4s into ensnare. So that's going to be a bad time in my plan. So he vanguarded. Oh, I forgot to say where Kragoth was. He was in front of the standard bearer right here. So this is Kragoth, the golem, who has vanguarded forward. And then I won first turn. So turn 1. Enact the chaff plan. So everyone just trundles forward. There's no ranged. It's not worth it. So actually, he's put Kragoth within range. So he's vanguarded him, I think, nearly as far as he can. So all 3 weapon teams can reach him in the first turn. As well as, and he's like 4, right? So I could just shoot him with the claw shots, which are piercing 2. We trundle these guys forward. And we trundle these guys forward. It's a very simple army. Like I say, I've not got a lot of time to play. And the demon went into the planned spot. So that's, you can see where I put the little range marker there. These guys are like here. There's a lovely area here where he can just sit quite happily. And that is a problem. Because it doesn't matter what he does. Next turn I can just tootle off wherever I like. The only thing he's really got that could do any damage is either the warbow or the behemoth could breath attack me. So I'm not that worried. So what do we do? Yeah, right. So then I rolled like a genius. So what was here? Kragoth. He's not here anymore because 30 breath and 15 claw shots. I think we did 8 or 9 wounds. I think I rolled an 11. There is no inspiring for Kragoth. And unfortunately, he died on the first turn, which is good for me. So on to his turn. So he left the bulwarkers where they are and turned this unit of ironclads. That's pretty smart because it means I can't flank charge his bulwarkers with my demon next turn. Everyone else trundled forward, so they've moved out of the charge range. The demon's line of sight is kind of like here-ish, so that's fair enough. So these ironclads have moved forward, and the behemoth and the iron guard. Oh, these guys are the bulwarkers, aren't they? All right, well, I can't remember. It's not important. They're all dwarves. And then he's moved his range, all of his kind of punchy units forward. Now, you will immediately see a problem with this deployment because he has got this much room and he has got this, and this to fit through. They will not fit. Yeah? You've got 2 big... Are they hordes or regiments? I think they're hordes. Hordes of chariots. Yeah, they are hordes. 2 big hordes of chariots and a Brock Riders, and he's not going to get everything through, especially not if he wants to put the standard bearer in there as well. So he's going to have to pick and choose what he charges with. And then the king, so following my maneuver, which I was like really smug. I'm so smug and clever by getting my demon in, right? He's done exactly the same thing. So he spotted if he puts his king all the way down here, there is a blind spot. Well, it's not a blind spot actually, is it? Because I can still charge him with blight. But I just think he's not that worried about being charged by blight. He's defense 6 and I have no crushing. And I've got no Bane chant over here as well. My warlock's over there somewhere. So yeah, that's what he's done. Onwards. So I think the main important thing, this is the corner of the shock troops right here, and they're facing this way, so the shock troops can't charge him because they would hurt him. So he shot all of his organ guns and the warbow of Kaba, which hit every single turn, and the sharpshooters into my slaves. Did 9 points of damage, but they are okay. On to turn 2. So, turn 2, we continue to enact the plan. So, I've taken this after the damage, actually, which is, anyway, it's fine. So, slaves move up, slaves move up. So, what I've done here, I've moved these ones slightly further. So, he can't now. There is no way he can get everything that he wants to get in. The Blight are here, ready to go in. You've put a great big horde base across here. It makes everything worse for him. And all of these guys have moved over. So, I've moved all 3 weapon teams this way, along with the ASB guy. And we're going to try and blow him off. And you can see we've done 7 wounds, which is a good number of wounds, actually, onto a defense 6 unit. Everyone's piercing 1 apart from the standard bearer. And I've got my claw shots as well, which has also shot him. We continue the trundle forward here, so I've just moved the slaves up and said, right, you can die now, that's fine. Because afterwards I'm going to charge with this, and I'm going to charge with this. I actually wanted to try and get the Blight off this piece of blocking terrain here, but I didn't manage it because I couldn't. So there you go, tough on me. You notice I've also turned the Warlock around because he also lightning bolted the... or did he? Right, I got Alchemist Curse. So that was something perhaps he didn't think about, was the fact that Alchemist Curse is going to add several wounds to that Defense 6 King. So that's how he's got 7 wounds on him from all that nonsense. And then we just trundled forward on the left here, up into those woods. And you can see I've already used quite a lot of my clock. Turn 2, 32 minutes left. Oh, that was something he did. You can just see here, sorry, in a turn. He, because the demon was sitting there, he turned around and sent his little standard bearer into the side of him, but he missed. So there you go. So 7 wounds on the king, as I said, from Alchemist Curse, 3 weapon teams, standard bearer, and 3 claw shots. I think the claw shots might have not been able to see him. Anyway, 2 wounds on the standard bearer from one of the claw shots at least. And yeah, I again rolled like a champion. Twice and killed the king. So this was not a great game for my opponent. At turn 2 I've killed 2 of his defense 6 characters, yeah, he was very gracious about it, but he wasn't very I wouldn't be very happy if this happened. And this was critical. This slightly blurry photo, what it is showing you is that at the end of my turn 2 I forgot to move the demon. I just forgot. He's right over the other side of the board. There's a big house in the way. I was, chortling because I just killed its king, and I forgot. I forgot to move the demon. So we had a little chat, and I kind of made my like a puppy dog eyes and went, "Oh, I forgot to move my demon." And I've just rolled his king and his Kragoth off, and he kind of went, "Yeah, normally I would say fine, but I think I'm losing already." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? That's fair enough. That's fair enough." So I let him carry on. Which is cool. So his turn. He did now. What did he? Did he charge? Yes, I charge. Sorry, I'm slightly out of order. But he charged both these units into my slaves and did an absolute ton of damage and obliterated them. Poor slaves. And here you see the issue. So he has charged the standard bearer into the Blight to hold them up, I think, and he's charged his chariots on the other side. I don't know why I've done this in this kind of weird way. I think I did this to show that the Brocks can't fit. Anyway. So yeah, 1 point of damage from the damaged standard bearer into those Blight. I think he's just holding them off. And he's moved that chariot back a bit. Now why has he done that? Who knows? Did I shoot it last turn? Don't think I did. Anyway, but he moved it back rather than go into my Blight. No, that's right. There was a unit of slaves here. There was a unit of slaves right here, and they are dead. They have been charioted. So that's what's happened. He's cleared some of the chaff. And the Iron Guard, Ironclad, Bulwarkers, whatever they are, Dwarves, charged my demon and did 2 points of damage because he's defense 5 and they haven't got any crushing strength. So, poor them. So is this turn? What's happened now? Yes, I've failed to take it. In fact, I think the turn dice is slightly later on, so apologies for this. So my turn 3. First unit of Blight went into the giant horde of Bulwarkers. Not expecting to do a lot. The demon countercharged them. And then I noticed something else. So he turned this unit. I don't think I took a photo of it. Did I? No, not. So over to the left here, remember there's this unit facing here? He was fully expecting to bounce off my demon, right? There they are. Right. So he's fully expecting to bounce, but he did 2 damage and he bounced. So what he's done is he's brought these into the flank, so he can flank into the demon in here. Right. Then he bounced off as expected. The problem is there was a gap. There was a gap down here, and we spent a lot of time measuring because it was almost exactly the size of a horde. My hand is not steady enough, so in the end we 4-upped it on a dice, and I rolled I think a 4. And so yeah, Blight, Brewer Strength flanked into the Bulwarkers. Not good. Well, great for me. And then I had a choice here what to do with the shock troops, so which of these units to charge. So in the end I decided to charge into the Ironclad, because they have got 12 attacks on 4s as opposed to mystery number of attack on 5s. Was that wise? No one will know. There was a reason. Whatever. So Bane chanted them, so they are extra spicy. They are hitting on 4s. And here we, yep. So previous turn, that's right. So some of the claw shots had gone, and we done actually on 7 points of damage to these chariots, which is pretty mega. He then wiped off my slaves. I've worked out he cannot get the Brox in, so I'm not particular. Oh, what has happened there? That was exciting, wasn't it? The Brock can't get in, as I've said previously. He's just got these chariots here, so the Blight went back into the Ogre Chariot dude, and I have moved all 3 weapon teams over from where they just obliterated the King, along with the Standard Bearer, to kind of finish off these guys. Maybe this was at the end of this turn. I don't think it was. No. Right, so he had 7 wounds on them already. It went up to 13. And we got 5 points of damage onto... Who did that then? Alchemist Curse. Right, so we Alchemist Cursed the Behemoth for 5 points of damage. And we wavered the chariots on the nerve roll, which is fine. That's absolutely brilliant. Oh, there's 10 dice. Hurrah! And even better, the demon wavered these Ironclad. So 7 points of damage from the demon from 13 attacks, so 3s and 2s. And wavered them. However, the Strength Blight into the flank of these so these are the Bulwarkers because they've got the spears. As you can see, 10 points of damage, but I double one it. There's my double one. So I bounced off. However, we did kill this Ironclad regiment there fairly easily with the shock troops. And we also killed the Standard Bearer with these Blight. So now he has a choice of what he charges me with. How exciting. And so, his turn 3, he chose the chariots. So, he could have moved these chariots back and gone in with the Brox, but they would have been hindered. So he chose the hindered charge of the chariots, because chariots hit on 3s normally, so at least they were hitting on 4s, right? So the chariots are wavered, the Brox are just kind of sitting there feeling a bit silly. Because with the best will in the world, he couldn't have got these wavered chariots back far enough for both units to charge in chariot bases. So the Bulwarkers countercharged my Blight with Brewer Strength, and then with the Behemoth he decided not to charge me because 5s, and instead backed up and shot me because 4s. Plus, if he shot me with those, he can also shoot me with all of that stuff. So that seems like a good idea to me. And he countercharged, and I think the unit, that's right, so this unit of Ironclad passed their headstrong roll, went back into the demon, and the Bulwarkers, who got 0 damage from my Blight attack, went back into mine. So there you go. So 12 damage onto the shock troops, but they're okay. 4 damage from the Bulwarkers into the Blight, and they're okay. An extra 1 point of damage onto the demon, and he's just feeling right rosy right now, thanks very much. And on to turn 4. So, turn 4, why is there a chariot hole missing? I've missed the movement phase, maybe. You can see why. Here's my clock. We're turn 4 and I've got 7 minutes left. Yeah? So, we shot some stuff at the chariots to finish them off, probably the claw shots. We then moved the weapon teams over and shot the Brox. 13 damage, but they're okay. Here's the shock troops. Why am I showing you shock troops? Ah, right, because we've charged into the Behemoth. He's not here anymore. There's a missing Behemoth. So we've charged into the Behemoth. We have obliterated him in a single turn. I must have rolled like an absolute demon. That guy's got a high nerve. dice are very much on my side in this game. And the Blight finished off the regiment of Ironclad, so it's all looking a bit not much fun right now for my opponent. He's just got this little ranged kind of enclave left, and he's got 2 hordes facing him. Once again, yes, very good. We once again, the demon wavered these Ironclad, but they've got headstrong, so it doesn't really matter. And we actually put some damage onto the... I'm going to remember the names of dwarf units any minute now. Oh, can I see them here? I cannot. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Iron Guard, defense 6, guys. Anyway, 6 points of damage. Well done. And into his turn 4. So all of the shooting went on my shock troops. Did another 9 points of damage and killed them. And his horde of bulwarkers, they're called bulwarkers, killed my horde of Blight finally after 3 turns. But, oh, there's my hand. I've got another one. So, that's my plan. It's working. The Brox finally got in. So the Brox, because obviously I've killed his chariot horde here, which gives him enough room now. So both the chariots and the Brox could charge my legion of Blight that were here. And they died, unsurprisingly. But you'll see, the Brock Riders already got 13 damage, and the chariots have got 4 damage already. So with the amount of shooting I've got left, and I've got 4 pieces of chaff here, it's just a matter of time. Turn 5 then. So the other horde went into the bulwarkers. Ah, yes, and did. So they already had what? 3 points of damage, and it's gone up to 7. So I did 4 points of damage with a hammer of measured force, and I double won them. But they're nervous so high, it's irrelevant. It's just fun to take a picture. Yeah, and that happened. So there was a unit of Brox here. There was a unit of chariots here, and you can see, weapon team, standard bearer, and 3 claw shots. Boom, smash them off the board. The Blight, which is my only horde left in the centre, went into this, whatever it's called, organ gun, and my Warlock has Alchemist Curse the other organ gun, because it's defense 5, and they have both died. And we have... what's happened here? Is this my turn? His turn? Who knows? Please bear with me while I check. Right. Demon has killed. That's what it is. So turn 5. Demon has murdered this regiment here, and he has turned to face this way. And so the plan here is I'm just going to fly him here-ish to give unit strength, because he's not going to kill this horde in one go. And I just out-unit strength him on that token for 2 points. Standard Bearer has moved back. So this is his turn 5 now. So I think that's... Right, so his Bulwark has gone back in. The Standard Bearer guys just moved back a little bit, so I can't charge him. And they're going to try and shoot my Horde, but it's stealthy. He's done 3 points of damage onto my Blight Horde. It is not enough. Turn 6. So we just kind of moved all these units forward to sit on these tokens. So they're worth 1 each to me. I moved the Blight back, so I could have easily killed either of these units, but actually I'd much rather have 2 points here. And I don't think, even with the 11 points of damage they've now got, that they're going to die. And the Demon flew over here. It doesn't matter even if they do die, because I don't need that token. I've got all of the other tokens, and that is the end of the game. So I ended up with 2, 4... Did I get one on the other side? I think I did. Did I? Don't think I did get the one on the other side. So I got 2, 4, 5, 6, 6 nil. So yeah, that was the end of game number 2, and a 19-point victory, which was much better than the draw in the first game. So with that said, on to game 3. Wouldn't it be terrible if I had to face another army of dwarves, guys? Okay, so game 3 against dwarves. So I should tell you, I've never played dwarves before this tournament. I've never played a game against dwarves. No one in my area plays them. I have some dwarves in a draw, enough dwarves to make an army, but I've never had any success with them. I've only played them a couple of times in Universal Battle, and I suck with them. I very much obviously enjoyed the previous victory, and so I was like, okay, dwarves again. This is against a much more experienced player, and actually, you may, if you're a fan of YouTube Battle Reports, you may recognize this army from Andy 2D6's magnificent battle reports. His practice game was this guy. This my opponent practicing against him. So here we go, 2,500 points of dwarves. These dwarves, I think, are a lot more optimized. So we have 2 regiments of ironclad, one with the skull pole and one with an additional dash that I've put in there, and the staying stone. Now I've put 2 regiments of rangers there, but I think it was 1 regiment of ranger. 1 regiment of rangers. I just can't bother to change the slide now that I've noticed that. But it's 1 regiment of rangers, 2 troops of shield breakers, a horde of shield breakers with the fogs. Now shield breakers you don't see very much, I don't think, at least on the battles or the lists that I've seen in the dwarf group. These are the defense 4 dwarves with +2 crushing strength. So obviously he wants to get that horde into something meaty, and he's put the fog there to protect them because they're defense 4. He's got 2 regiments of Brock Riders, one with sharpness and one with strength, which I believe is the correct way to run Brock Riders, but that's just me. 3 organ guns, which is the correct number of organ guns. 2 Berserker Lords. Now this was a little bit weird. So both were mounted on a Brock, and one had the Blade of the Beast Slayer, which is traditional. The other one had the wings of the Honey Maze. So he was a flying mounted Berserker Lord. And at first I was like, can you give the wings to a mounted character? And he was like, yeah, you can. And I even looked it up and went, yeah, you can. And then I kind of thought to myself, but why? The only thing you get out of it is vicious. And I just kind of like, yeah. So it's 50 points of upgrade on a Berserker Lord just to get vicious. Okay, fly. That's good. And he goes from speed 8 to speed 10. But why not just give him the wings? And save yourself those 30 points of the mount. But it's just me. A Battle Driller. 2 Mastiff Hunting Packs. And Golok's Fury, the legendary steel behemoth. I've got to say, at this tournament, so 2,500 points is a lot. I was a little disappointed that no one ran the behemoth formation. Kind of think if you're going big, go big. But nonetheless, I think this army's pretty strong. I think it's a nice setup. It's got some speed. It's got a lot of shooting. It's got some chaff. It's got a giant behemoth in it. What could you possibly go wrong with this list? Anyway, so this was the battlefield. I think this was another interesting battlefield. So we have a height 2 hill back there at the back, and 2 height 1 walls. Off of these big towers, there's 2 height 4 forests there on the left. Not ordered the right way around to make our friends over at Giant Dwarf happy, but nonetheless, it's still a double forest. Double forest. 3 height 4 obstacles. Put your teeth in. 2 height 0 pieces of terrain and 2 height flat pieces of terrain. Now, the interesting thing about this battlefield, okay, there's not a lot of terrain kind of in this area. It's kind of really empty, and I believe my opponent won the roll and chose this side because he could put his organ guns onto a hill. I think this was just outside of 12 though. So this tower here, this gap on this side is exactly the size of a horde, so you can fit precisely 1 horde down here. Okay, that is important. So the scenario is scavenge right out of the rulebook. So 3 tokens placed in turn, 1 in the center, and then you place 2 more, from which you can harvest a loot token at the beginning of your turn. So the first one went here, the second one went here, which I put down, I think. And the other one went over. No, actually, that's right. So he put down this one first because he chose sides on the other side of that tower where that gap was. And I put down the one on the right-hand side, which is in a forest. So there you go. That's how we put down the tokens. So let's look at deployment. So he deployed on the left here. So he has got one of his troops of the punchy guys and a Mastiff pack here. And this is his Brew of Strength Brocks. So hitting on 4s, but with a punch. All 3 organ guns. Look at that nice modelling. I like it. Next to them, he's got the Ironclad. This is Golok. This is the Battle Driller. And this is the giant horde of shield breakers. And then everything else over on the right-hand side to fight for the other tokens. So we have the other troop, the other regiment of Ironclad, his 1 unit of Rangers, and the Brocks with the Mastiff pack behind it. I think, yeah, there is the other Brock Lord. So there is a Brock Lord here. This is the Brock Lord with wings. And then over here is the Brock Lord with the Blade of the Beast Slayer. Okay. Fair to say, Brew of Sharpness Brocks, pretty terrifying. So in response, I put a Horde of Blight, with slaves in front of them, and you will spot my deployment, which is the same deployment I've done at the entire tournament. So we have one weapon team here with a standard bearer with a diadem, and next to them, can you guess? Can you guess? That's right, it's the other two weapon teams. So behind a unit of slaves with the Brew of Strength Blight. So this is my typical tactic: get them into cover, let you break onto me, and then smash you. So this time the demon's over on this side. I have got the exactly the same I've done previously. So we've got the horde of slaves, horde of shock troops, hiding directly behind them this time because I don't want Golok to shoot me without cover. Although he can shoot me, he's height 4. So what am I doing? It's the organ guns, that's what I'm hiding from. And then I've put all 3 claw shots here facing forward. So the plan with the claw shots is just shoot off the organ guns, get rid of them. And on the right hand side, I've gone Horde of Blight, Hammered Force Blight. And so this is my cunning strategy. I don't think it's that cunning. Put Blight in between tower and edge of the board and let you break on me. Let you break on as many turns as you like, because as soon as you kill them, here's another horde. And in the meantime, I can just be generating tokens. Okay. So he vanguarded the ranger unit here, and then I believe I won first turn. I did win first turn. So I pushed the demon up here because he is out of line of sight. So if the rangers want to shoot me, they have to turn. And I'm out of charge range. Obviously, these move 4 guys, but more importantly, these move 16 guys can't get to me. Slaves moved up. Slave moved up. I had a line of sight from this weapon team here for 12 inches into the rangers, so I took that, and the 2 horses just kind of moved up a little bit. In the middle, following the same thing, so slaves moved up to get this token at the beginning of the next turn, and everyone else just kind of stood still to shoot. And then we moved 12 with these guys to sit on a token, so I can get a token next turn and pass it back. What am I looking at? Can anyone remember what was there? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Right. Troop of defense 4 dudes meets sharpshooters, and boom, away they go. So 1 troop taken off in round 1 from the sharpshooters. Not sharpshooters. Dwarves have got sharpshooters. I've got claw shots. They're the same. And we put 2 wounds onto this organ gun and wavered it, which sounds good, except for the fact they're dwarves. So wavers generally mean nothing because of headstrong. And there's the turn dice. Just in case you wondered if it was turn 1. It was. So his turn. He left the rangers where they were and moved the Brocks and the Mastiffs up here and the Brocklord all the way over to here. So he's ready to basically use the Brocklord to take out some of the weapon teams, which is really sensible. These guys trundled forward 4 because that's all they could do. Did they go 4 or did they go 8? It's not important. These guys move forward 4 because they move straight into cover. So this is a very slow advance. And then he realised he couldn't see anything where he deployed this organ gun. So he had to move these 2, and both of them in fact. He moved both organ guns, because they've got 24-inch range, forward up onto the hill. He couldn't get this one onto the hill, so it was next to the hill. This one, however, passed its headstrong test, so could shoot. And then he sent... And so I'm like, go on, I don't care. Blight are so great, right? So you can send your Brocks and Brocklord into the front of them. You'll definitely bounce. So the organ gun did 1 point of damage onto my slaves. There's a nice little shot, by the way, of the edge of my slave unit. It's got Ronnie the Bard just kind of hiding. I like it. Anyway, you see the different slaves. I've got some goblins, some humans, an abyssal. That's a dwarf. And this is one of my brutes holding the chains. Look at that. Marvellous. These guys, so the rangers shot back and they shot at this through this gap, which was here, into this slave unit for 6 points of damage, but they're okay. And yeah, this is what overconfidence does you. So he rolled, I think, 10 5s on this unit of Blight that was here. In total, he did 15 points of damage and obliterated them because arrogant old me didn't put a standard bearer with them. So he exploded a horde of Blight in 1 turn. This is turn 1. And I felt a bit silly because now I've just got this horde of Blight and nothing left. Nothing else can get over here quick enough. Wah, wah, wah. Turn 2. So we do 1 damage and waver this organ gun. It's a nice close-up of that nice model. Wavered. And a 5 points of damage on that one. Wavered that. I wavered both organ guns. Isn't that great? Nope. Headstrong. And 1 point of damage onto Golok. Kind of pointless. And then we did 7 points of damage. So the combined firepower, because I've got all my weapon teams here, and I've got the standard bearer. So we put 7 wounds onto this Brocklord because he's only got defense 4. Hurrah! I don't think I killed him. I didn't even waver him because he's unwaverable because he's a Brocklord. So the counter charge from my measured force blight did 7 points of damage onto the blight killing Brox over here, the strength Brox. And then on his turn 2, now I thought this was the wrong decision. You can disagree with me. By the way, this is not my unit of blight. I borrowed this of somebody else in case you think I paint like this. I don't. I don't know, not bad painted, but it's just not me. So his Brocklord was on 7 wounds, and he's like, well, he's going to die next turn, isn't he? And I thought, yeah, he's probably going to charge a weapon team just to get rid of one of them because they're so completely deadly. Instead, he charged into the front of a horde of blight, and I was kind of like, okay, sure, you can charge into ensnare on a dash 21 horde. Why not? I just thought it was a weird decision. Obviously, I people make decisions all the time. I might be right, might be wrong. Anyway. So the Rangers then charged into this slave unit that was sitting in the trees. And the Sharpness Brox charged into this slave unit who, they're not going to live, are they? With this unit's now kind of got back into range. And this one is over here. Oh, I forgot to mention. This base here is where I got my demon. So he was down there somewhere, do you remember? So I moved him up to about here. And so I moved him over here because, you can see my lines of sight here. Nobody could see him to charge him. So he was out of their sight and he could then potentially come in. But all these Brox need to do is kill the slaves and overrun, I think, like 1 to 2 inches. And they'll be out of my line of sight. So I won't be able to rear or flank charge him. So that's my front. I'm facing this way, right? So yeah, all the waiver token came off because he passed all of his headstrong tests and started to shoot me. So these guys then went back into the unit of blight, which is I'm not confident it's going to survive at all now. So all the organ guns put 5 points of damage onto my slaves, who are doing a jolly good job of not dying, and they're fine. And 4 points of damage onto my shock troops, who also are fine. However, obviously, this unit of slaves has got completely destroyed. And plus, this is the scavenge token, so these Brots can now scavenge a token at the beginning of next turn. What's that? That is the other slaves dying, so 11 points of damage from the Rangers onto the slaves, and they are also dead. Turn 3. So, you can see, sorry, I forgot to take a photo earlier, so 12 points of damage. 12 points! I've scavenged a token at this point, this is my scavenged token. But he's done 12 points of damage onto a dash 21 horde that's on its own. And he's got this, 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 and this. Oh dear, I'm going to lose that token and control of this area. So that's one kind of scavenge token I'm not going to have. However, here, the slaves are feeling fine. They have scavenged a token. And we've moved up. The Blight have gone into the Rangers that so obligingly presented themselves. Now we are hindered, but they've already got 3 points of damage. So, let's see. And, right. Yep, so all the weapon teams moved over here because they want to shoot these Brox. So, and we just countercharged into the already damaged Brocklord with the completely undamaged Blight because unfortunately his attack whiffed. And, more shots. This is turn 3, you don't forget. Still shooting at these organ guns. Little pips of damage every single turn. 2 waivers on these ones and a double 1 on that one. So, yeah, frustrating. Anyway, and a double 1 here. So these, that's right. So my measured force guys countercharged into the Brox with the brute strength. 12 points of damage. That's a good number. They're killable. And another double 1. Wop, wop. Anyway, so we rolled really well with these Blight, however, on this flank, despite the fact we're hitting on 5s and we killed the Rangers. However, we are now looking at a regiment of Brox and a regiment of Ironclad. And the Brocklord died. So, he did do 1 point of damage, so good for him. Anyway, he's dead now. And then the demon flew over. So if you remember, the demon was... Let's find a picture. Oh, there he is. This is really riveting viewing, isn't it? I'm the best YouTuber ever. So here he is. So these guys turned so that I couldn't charge them. So instead of charging them, I just went into this unit of chaff here and murdered them. So I could then turn around and get a nice rear. I don't want chaff to come in and start getting tokens and stuff. I'd rather just get rid of it. Plus, my demon's out of danger, so I'm not particularly bothered. So and then he can. So there he is. He's flown over here. He's totally smashed that guy, and then he's kind of turned to face this way, so he can rear and flank things all over the place, right? So in my opponent's turn, are we turn 3 or turn 4? Sorry for skipping through pitches. Turn 3. Opponent's turn 3. He's gone back into my very heavily damaged blight already, so they're not long for this world. These guys have just trundled forward, so they're still not able to engage. Still just outside of 8, which I think was probably quite frustrating. Anyway, so they trundle forward. And then obviously the Brox and the Ironclad went into these blight. Now both of them are hindered. So Sharpness Brox hit on 3, so they're back to 4s. Ironclad hit on 4, so they're up to 5. So I'm not entirely unhopeful I might win that. And then all the shooting, so the organ guns and Gollop gun and stuff went onto my slaves. Did another, I think, 7 or 8 points of damage, and then wavered them. So that's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely brilliant. So this multiple charge and hindered only did 8 points of damage, which is not enough to waver a -21. Hurrah! And they bounced. But unfortunately, the other side is not quite as pleasant, and he completely murdered my unit, taking the loot token off them. Now, the one benefit here is that he's then got my loot token, so he can't generate another. Right, so he now has to wait a turn to move this unit forward, and then wait a turn to generate a loot token. So that, I think that's pretty good. It's kind of turned out okay. So he can't generate a loot token there until turn 5. And then on my turn, so we have, and due to this unfortunate bounce, you get a demon in the rear of them, you get the blight in the flank of them. And actually my war engines are kind of like, oh, there's actually nothing left for us to do. So this one had to move over here to allow the blight to charge in. This one started over here. So first, this was actually quite complicated because the blight was, I want to say here, with the war engines kind of like here, here and here. Okay, so first, this one moved down here. Second, this one moved up here. Then the blight came in, and then this one moved forward. That's completely clear, isn't it? That's a great diagram. I'm great at this. Nominate me for an award. Okay, so that's interesting, isn't it? Because I've cheated. Well, just as well I've cheated, really. So I've rolled a Yellow Belly to charge this unit, despite the fact there is a great big waver token here pointing out I can't do that, they're wavered. So it's just as well I rolled Yellow Belly, otherwise it would have been completely cheating. So yeah, this unit was wavered. So I don't know why. Yeah, there you go. Heat of battle. Finally my claw shots have killed 2 of these flipping organ guns. However, this one's feeling just rosy on 3 wounds. So there you go. 2 organ guns down. Well done, me. Turn 4. This was turn 4 already. That was turn 3. I've taken the turn dice a little bit out. So an out of turn dice. Just to let you know, this is still turn 4. So the blight killed the Brock unit. The Brock unit dropped their token. So that token now comes onto me. Thank you very much. Whoa! Got to stop doing that. Comes onto me. Thank you very much. And yeah, so the front charge from these blight, the back charge from the that's right. So these blight went right. So these blight went into the Brox. He went into the Ironclad. They went into the Brox. Okay. So this unit of blight has overrun onto the token and picked it up because they dropped the token when they charged, or at the end of their turn or the beginning. I can't remember. They dropped the token anyway. So I've picked that up there because the objective is here. So I can now immediately generate a second token here. The demon is just reformed like that. Okay, with me? Clear as mud. So, finally, they get to attack. You'll notice that the slaves have passed their loot token back here. So I've now got 3 loot tokens. He has charged this horde in here, this regiment here, to finish off this slave unit who have proved surprisingly resilient. So on the left-hand flank, I haven't taken a picture of it, apologies. So he's rolled his Brocks forward, and the Brock Lord that flies has come down here. That's bad, because he's out of the shooting range of everything I've got left. So I've turned one unit round here to face him, so I can at least shoot him next turn. And I've just resigned, one of these guys is going to die. That's fine. So where's the regiment gone? That's the question. I think I shot it. Did I shoot it? Where is it? Who knows? It's dead anyway. So this might be into my turn 5 when I took this picture. To explain, I know I've explained it already in this battle report. In fact, I've explained it already. Time, very short. Taking photographs, a distraction. You get me. So this is my turn 5, and the turn dice probably show up in a minute. Demon went into flank right. So what happened was, I'll tell you what happened. So he killed the slave unit and just sat there, right? The slave unit had picked up a token, a second token, because we'd passed this one back, but I dropped it on my turn. Okay, that's what happened. So he then killed the slave unit and tried to overrun, because he wanted to overrun to pick up the token. But as you can see, his overrun was 1 inch short of landing on the token, so he couldn't pick it up. Okay, Battle Driller came across here. I then shot off the Ironclad unit, and I moved the demon into the flank of the, whatever they're called, Shield Breaker unit. Okay, so he's brought Gollop up, and he's brought the Battle Driller over here. That's what's happened. And I'm not sure if this 11 damage is before or after I've charged him. It might be after. It's after. So I've hit them, 11 damage, and I've wavered them. But, headstrong. And again, I've wavered the Organ Gun for the 4th turn in a row. Gollop's there up to 4 damage. This is just peppering with shots, okay? Also, the Claw Shot had a line of sight. So 1 Claw Shot went to these. We did 2 damage. And wavered this unit here. So we have another wavered unit. Okay, the Brocks with the token have come down here. Okay, so this being turn 5, he can now pick it up. So the Brock Lord, the Flying Blocker, went into the flank of that Claw Shot unit, and the Battle Driller went into the front of the Demon to ground him. He's just facing the wrong way because the model didn't quite fit. Okay, what's that? Right, yes, so that is Gollop shooting off the shock troops. So the shock troops were here, Gollop shot at them with his gun, he got a good roll, and that means they've dropped their loot token because they are dead. Oh dear. And the Brock Lord killed that unit of claw shots. Right, and now we get really, really short on screenshots because at this point I'm under 2 minutes. Under 2 minutes, end of turn 5, something like that. It is ridiculously tight to do my go. Suffice to say, right, so the claw shot unit that I turned to face this way shot at the Brocks that were over there carrying the token and killed them because they already had 9 damage. That was an absolutely brilliant roll because, they dropped their loot token and nobody else can pick it up. Okay, so he doesn't have a loot token there. He just has the 1 loot token on the unit round the corner, or possibly 2. Okay, so at that point, then this Brock Lord was killed here, and he was kind of like, well, I think I've lost. So we looked at the tokens, and I had 3. So I got 1 on those Blight who've now moved up, but 1 on that Blight there, and the Demon can just fly to pick up this one. That gives me 3 to his 2, I think, or possibly 2 to his 1. In any case, what he said was the kill points. What's the highest value unit that my Brock Lord could reach? And it was my Warlock, because he's got quite a few spells. So he charged into my Warlock and killed him for some extra kill points. Yeah, I think we're nearing the end. So we moved over here with our loot token, just out of the way. We moved down here with our loot token. The unit that was here. Did I already go through the death of that? I have a terrible short-term memory anyway. You can imagine what happened because there's 3 of these dudes here. And obviously the Battle Driller didn't have much luck. So this is the objective token here. So my Demon can generate a token. So I have 1, definitely have 1, 2, 3 on turn 6. Because I way out unit strength from him. And he has 2 because he's only got 2 units left on the other side. That's what's happened. It's definitely 3-2. I've totally got command of this. Everything's fine. Right. That's where the Brocks were. They've died. Look, there's the Brocks loot token. Apologies for blurry screenshot. So that's from when they died. These guys have got a loot token. Those guys have got a loot token, but that's only 2. And there's my dead Warlock with 2 wounds. And that's the clock at the end of this game. So this is, That's Sam's clock. My opponent. I'm not supposed to say this. That's my opponent's clock, and that's my clock. 18 seconds. So, whoo! Very, very close game. Incredibly enjoyable to play. So much fun. So many double ones. So many waivers and all those kind of stuff. It was really great. But it finished with a 17-point victory to me, which is pretty good, and put me onto table 3 for the final round. So, if I do really well, I'm within reach of podiuming. I'm not going to win, but I am within reach of podiuming if I score a massive victory in the last scenario. So, let's take a look at what happened in game number 4. And so on to game 4. So this time I was facing Elves. And what are you going to get when you get Elves at this kind of level? A lot of dragons, am I right? So this was the 2,500 points of Elves that I faced. We had 2 hordes of archers, one with the mandatory Heartseek enchant, and one with the semi-mandatory Jar of the Four Winds. We had a regiment of Shamblers, a regiment of Stormwind with Brew of Strength, a horde of Draken Riders, just one horde, Draken Riders with Brew of Sharpness, which makes them extremely unpleasant. 2 mages, one of which had Fireball and Shroud of the Saint, and one of which had Blizzard and the Inspiring Talisman. And then we had 2 Dragon Kindred Lords, one with Brew of Haste and one with Dwarven Ale, and a Mystical Dragon Kindred Lord with the Boots of Levitation. So that can move 20 inches and then turn, and Fireball 15, which is pretty tasty. And that's it. So still as elite as Elves can be, but incredibly punchy. So a fire and forget army, basically. It will smash. Most of these elements will smash, with the exception perhaps of the Shamblers, will smash most of the things they go into. And with lots of hordes of archers, which I like, because I've got lots of stealthy. So this was the battlefield, and apologies for this shonky photograph. I wasn't even drinking. It's just a bad picture. I don't have any more. So this was the battlefield. Just try and ignore the detritus on the table. So this is really interesting. Right in the corner, this is the only hill, and it was right in the corner of the battlefield down here. So we both got shooting, right? And so we had this discussion beforehand, like, well, we're both going to try and get that side of the board, right, and put our shooters on there. And I actually won sides for this and chose this deliberately. So we'll talk about that in a second. However, there's 3 height 1 obstacles, 2 height 4 forests over there on the right, and then 3 buildings. So there's this giant building here, a little ring of stones. It's quite interesting. The battlefields, when they started, had a lot of this kind of terrain, and they probably started, I'd say, like a ring of stones like this. But it seems that people throughout the day just kind of shove them together, because it's really hard to work out how to play around blocking terrain like that. So that's how it ended up like that. Anyway, there you go. And then finally a piece of flat terrain. So not a lot of terrain on this board, but some quite kind of blocking terrain. So as I say, I won the roll-off. And this is how my opponent deployed. So from left to right at the top of the table, he's got his... This is just one of his normal dragons. I think this was the Dwarven Ale dragon. And these are obviously the Drakons. And this was the Piercing Horde. So this one at the front was the Piercing Horde. Then we have the mages, and I can't remember which one's which, if I'm entirely honest. One of them, I think this was the Healy one, maybe. And that was the Blizzardy one. Not sure. This is the Four Winds Archers, plenty far back. These are the Stormwind with Brew of Strength. This is the Mystical Dragon. So this white one is the Mystical Dragon. And then right here, they're going to have it already vanguarded forward. These are the Shamblers. So they started about here, and they vanguarded just into the woods here. Okay. And then right over on the right-hand side of the board, there's 2 obstacles. Apologies, I missed one right on the side. There's 2 obstacles. Extra obstacle is the other regular dragon. This is one with the Brew of Haste, so he goes 22. All right, so that was my opponent's deployment. And then, so right to left. So obviously, I've stuck my claw shots onto this hill, which you think, wow, that's where they should go. And that was kind of what we discussed. And so obviously he knew I was going to do that and deployed accordingly. So if you look at his force, there's basically, I can shoot this. Oh, not even that, actually, because he's deployed them all behind the building, right? So, this being the hill, he's deployed basically his force here, because line of sight, right? And then everything else here, because more than 36 inches. So he knew I was going to do this. So I kind of, by choosing the side and discussing it beforehand, I've really disadvantaged myself, because I put these guys in a place where they can't really shoot anything. I think I was kind of expecting his battle lines to roll forward and I could just pick them off. So we'll see. So here I have a Horde of Blight, because stealthy. And behind them, this is the diadem standard bearer and the 3 weapon teams with one of the slave regiments. And then to the left we have the other slaves. So don't forget, most of his armies in this kind of bit here. We have the other. This is the measured force blight, regular blight, shock troops, and then right over the other side of the board we have the other slave regiment. Oh, where's the standard bearer? Here's the sorry. So behind this slave regiment is the standard bearer with the loot and the warlock. Okay, so slave regiment, demon, and behind them blight. Right, because there's only a dragon on that side, so I'm not actually that worried about it at this time. So my plan with this, okay, so I formulated a strategy for this battle because I wildly outdrop the opponent, and our scenario is it's invade with a special condition, right? So it's invade, get your hordes over the center line, and if you kill your opponent's general, so the general is the highest point hero monster, so mine is the demon and his is the mystical dragon. If you kill it, you get an extra 3 points, so you can get 23 points if you total your opponent in this final scenario. So I'm just thinking about invade because I'm fairly certain the demon will die. He's actually relatively fragile. He's a 16-18 when he's not rallied, and he's got 3 dragons, so he can just dance around me and blow me off the board. That's probably going to happen. However, I have got way more unit strength, so my only plan is to get this horde, and this horde over. Okay, and then the whole rest of my army, all of this nonsense. So from here, all of this is to distract him. I want to make him fight much of this as possible all through the battle, and then just quietly slip this lot over the line. That's my plan. Okay, and then if I can, because I've kind of realised that these guys are out, I will slip them down here as well because they can go 6, so they can actually just head down the battlefield. Because realistically, if we look at his army, okay, dragon is 1 unit strength. I think he's going to have to throw the cavalry in, and with the amount of chaff I've got, they're going to die. That's going to be 1. We expect the shamblers to die, so we can forget them. So currently we've got 2 unit strength. This archer horde is never going to get across the line, I think. And this one is going to really struggle. Okay, because it's very difficult. If he wants to shoot me properly to get them across the line. The dracons will dance around me. There's probably no way I can catch them. Okay, so we've got 3 dragons and a drakon horde that's likely to get across my lines. Okay, so that's 5 unit strength. So all I need to get is 2 hordes across the center line, and I've won. And I'm not sure he can kill what is realistically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hordes in 6 turns. So that's the plan. Let's see how we go. Turn 1, he won the roll, and the first thing he did is shoot this dragon all the way over here, straight down here. So he's going to try and just chew up the claw shots. I like that plan because I'm going to shoot him. Yeah, I'm just going to blow him up. So that's my plan. I don't mind actually, because if he wants to waste his 300-point dragon on eating my 90-point claw shots, I'd be delighted. Then he looked at all the shooting I got here, and he decided that the dragons didn't want to play, and he shot them over here. So he's played smart because he's seen my shooting position on the hill, and basically he's just going to push his whole army to the right-hand side of the board to avoid it, which I think is pretty clever. Obviously the archers didn't move, and the cavalry just popped forward a bit. And then the mystical dragon came over here to support this lone dragon who's facing off a great big horde, loads and loads of hordes of stuff. Okay, so he's got most of his army here, and now I've got most of my army on this side, so he's going to push this stuff over to try and head them off. Okay, and then the shamblers, I think they just turned a little bit. I can't threaten them in the first turn anyway. So I haven't taken photo of my movement, so apologies for that. Just got a bit carried away in the first turn. So just to give you a clue, it's not very complicated. This all moves forward. I think demon came here and faced that way. Okay, this all moved forward. We trundled everything forwards because that was my plan. And then I shot at his dragon. Okay, so we did. So not all the claw shots could see that dragon because he positioned it quite well. 2 of them could, 1 of them couldn't. So the one that couldn't shot these archers, did 2 points of damage, and then I double sixed it. So I wavered them first turn, which is an excellent start. And then very helpfully, I've taken a photo of this wound dice, and I think it's 5. I think he's got 5 damage from 2 claw shots on the first turn, which is great. No waver, but I think that's a good result. And then I think I lightning bolted the mystical dragon for 1 point of damage. Okay, so I also forgot to take a picture of the turn 2 dice. So you can see my cunning photo manipulation here. You may not believe this, but that's not a real second dot. I've drawn that on. Pretty clever. So turn 2. Anyway, so this is when the dance began. So you can see where I moved my dragon up to, and he then put his so he moved his mystical dragon all the way over. He moved 20. I think he probably forgot that he could turn and shoot. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I think maybe it was 2 turns, so 1 turn to go and then 20 went this way. And the other dragon kind of popped down and turned this way, so he's out of charge range of everything, but he can still flame me. So his game, which I think is really smart, is to dance around my demon for as long as possible and just kind of breath him to death, which is perfectly feasible to do because there's no way I can avoid 3 dragons. So then the Dracons continued this way. And I think this mage moved over to heal up these 2 points of damage. And then the Shamblers just backed away because I'd moved forward into charge range and they didn't want to be charged, so they just backed up. And then the Cowardly Custard, having taken 5 points of damage, decided he didn't... Because what I've got, you can see the end of them here. The weapon teams and the Diadem have moved over. So if he actually went into my claw shots, he's going to get 40 breath as well, and he's probably going to die. So he's gone to hide behind this building, which is a good move. And then I didn't spot this. Totally, my mistake. I moved this Horde of Blight too far forwards. So he spotted that he could get a flank, and promptly did with the Storm and Cavalry. I don't actually mind, because don't forget, I don't care about any of these troops. I just don't care about them. I kind of want him to spend as much time as possible killing them, and also these horses are now completely within range of all my shooting. Yay! And here's a photo of some mages who know. Oh, that's because she healed 2 damage, right? And so the first breath from here onto my demon, 2 points damage. That's survivable, but can't keep that up for long. And then, so the archers, the archer horde that wasn't wavered. How did he do 18 points of damage with 1 archer? Did he do 18 points of damage with 1 archer horde? Holy caboodles. I think Blizzard as well. So he blizzarded, and he did the archers, but 18 points is massive. They are defense 2, I get it, and he wavered them. Well, I don't care, but that is a lot of damage. And that is the Blight Horde that was, so you can see he did 21 points of damage from his flank charge, and obviously blew them off the board as well. If you're running, by the way, we decided the edge of the building was here. Yeah, between these 2 things, so that's blocking terrain. You can see this dragon just poking out here, just in case. But anyway, that's 1 Blight Horde down. So then, my turn. So the slaves move forward, and all my shooting turned back around. It's nimble, so it's cool, and came this way because we're going to shoot this bad boy. Everyone else just kind of shuffled forward. So that's right. So I moved the slaves back 3, which meant I could jump the Blight Horde with measured force over the top of them into here. My standard bearer is having a lie down there. And this Blight Horde moved up into the trees. I want him to charge me through the trees. I just don't care because Shamblers just aren't that strong. And then on this side, so we dance some more. So the demon moved behind this terrain, so he couldn't be charged. And this Blight moved up to offer some threat here. So I made a mistake here, confession, because I measured 20. So I knew that if 20, he would land within my line of sight. This is, of course, the dragon with Brew of Haste, so actually he could go 22. My mistake. Anyway, the Dracons are here, facing this way. So I moved the demon up here and the slaves as chaff to block them so he couldn't charge me. So the good news is the breath plus Alchemist Curse from the Warlock completely destroyed that unit of cavalry. Hurrah! 1 point for the noble rats. Turn 3. Look at me taking a vote of the turn dice like a proper person. One of these days I'll be a professional battle reporter. It's not today. Anyway, so yeah, so that's what I talked about. So I've mismeasured, so his dragon could hop over here, facing the wrong way, but the dance continues. And this dragon just moved over. So the point of this is my line of sight is like here, right? So I can't see him. But if I jump out here, he's gonna jump on top of me, and he can see my slaves. But I'm very happy for him to charge my slaves. He's not gonna. And the Dracon's backed away. because they backed just outside of the 20-inch charge range, so the demon would have ended up here, which would not be good. And then, right, so again, messing up. So this was honestly, I just cocked up because not very good. And probably I was quite tired by this point. I forgot about the dragon peeking out from behind the house, so the dragon got a lovely flank onto my blight, and these shamblers decided to come in here as well. So that's not good, is it? Why have I taken a photograph of 2 damage? No, it was 2 damage then from the charge. Oh, no, I know why. Because she healed. Right, so she's healed 3 points of damage off this dragon. There you go. There is a method behind my madness. And then the archers, who finally woken up, did 12 damage onto this horde of slaves. Seems a little bit rude. I have no idea. No idea. Why is there... Yeah, okay, fair enough. And that was the other... I think that's one of the weapons teams. So either a blizzard or the other archers, I think, shot into the weapon team, 7 points of damage, and he died. And that was where the slaves were. So just to show you that the nerve roll, of course, killed them. Oh dear. Right then, so this is good. So 15 points of damage onto this horde from the flank charge from the dragon, and the front charge from the shamblers, and a 1. So they stood firm. Well done, chaps. I'm so proud of you. Right, so then on my turn, so this base is where my dragon is, my demon is. So I've turned over here and facing. I think I'm facing this way. So I'm out of his charge range. Nothing can hit me. However, he can just turn around or jump over me and continue blasting me. So, meh. I think I've ignored the dragon behind these. Oh, he's facing the other way, isn't he? That's right. The dragon behind him was just facing the other way, so I didn't care. So shock troops have moved forward because, of course, what I'm trying to do is get this horde and this horde over the board. 2 hordes, 6 points, I win, right? And then the blight that were here have decided to take a flank charge. Sorry for the blurry photo. So the we countercharge with the measured force onto the dragon because I need to get rid of a dragon. Yeah, and that's that's a good chance. It's measured force, so it's on 4s. So 30 attacks, 4s and 4s. And then we went into the flank of these shamblers. So that's 60 attacks, but it's going to be on 5s. And I failed the Bane Chant. I didn't manage to get a Bane Chant off. So 5s and 5s. Realistically, it's only going to be 4 or 5 wounds. But with a good roll, they'll still go. Okay, and that's another 2 unit strength I don't have to worry about. And then realizing I've got nothing left to shoot because he's very sensibly moved his entire army across the board, I thought, alright, fair enough then. Time to enact plan B, which is to get these guys over. 3 guaranteed unit strength. If I can just get them behind this building, I think the center line's about here. So I can probably get them over without being within range. Let's see. What have I done there? Alright, so this is the diadem, and I think this weapon team went into the archers in cover, and 3 points of damage, which is rubbish. So yeah, so the measured force blight managed to do a whole 6 points of damage to the dragon, which unsurprisingly was not enough. He only had 3 points, 2 points, so like it must have been only 4 wounds, which is absolutely terrible. Rolled like, crap. Even worse, 5 points of damage and not even a waiver on the shamblers. So now I have both my units. So this is the flank of the blight. Shamblers aren't very scary, but in the flank that's still 18 attacks on 4s with crush 1 into a defense 3 unit, which is not ensnaring in the side. Turn 4, and particularly also the rear of this blight is now exposed as well. Nightmare. Turn 4. Game's going pretty quick, not many units to fight against. So I've got to hand it to my opponent. He can play dragons really well. With 3 of them, there is so much flexibility. It's impossible. You're chasing, vapor. So the mystical dragon that was here has turned right and gone this way. Okay. The other dragon, which was here and facing that way, has turned and gone over here. So he can continue this flaming on me, right? So I've only got 2 points of damage at the moment. And it's turn 4, so I'm doing alright. I think I'm doing okay. So the Drakons, who of course were over there somewhere, facing that way, these blights' flank was now in their line of sight, so they decided to eat them. And the dragon here and the shamblers here went into this unit, which already had an obscene amount of damage. So, yeah, you can see what's going to happen there. These archers, not having a lot left to shoot, decided to hop over the wall. This is my worst fear, that an archer horde might actually get into my half. And they did, so they moved and they shot and did 3 points of damage to this weapon team, and I don't think they killed it. However, the breath from this dragon did 6 points of damage, so 6 off 10 breath is really good rolling. 6 on 4s and 5s, nightmare. So it's fair to say the dice not on my side by this point. So anyway, so that was the Blight Horde that was here, that was attacked by these Dracons. Yeah, it's fair to say they did a small amount of damage there. 29 damage. No double one this time, so they're gone. But don't forget, I'm not particularly bothered, because all I care about, where are they, is getting this horde and the shock troops into this half of the board. That's all I care about. And that is still happening because his army is totally tied up with all my units in the middle, no matter how dead they are. And of course, this unit of Blight also does. So both hordes are now gone, and I have a standard bearer and a very heavily wounded slave unit. Not great. However, the weapon teams that were alive and the standard bearer did manage to put this archer horde up to 13 damage, which is in danger territory. But I didn't manage to roll them off, which is disappointing, but we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. And so, right, thinking about unit strength, I risked a yellow belly roll and passed it, and I charged my slaves into these shamblers because they've got 5 wounds already, and it's 25 on 5s and 5s. Alright, so I'm going to do 5, 2 or 3 points of damage maybe. It should be enough for me to get rid of them. Okay, I think I failed the Bane chant again, which was really disappointing. I also like the idea of the Ronnie the Bard here going hello to the dragon that's literally standing right next to them. Turn 5, so we're getting into very risky territory here. You can see where I've continued to move the claw shots up here. So the center line is here. So 1's already over and 2 about to go over. Hurrah! Bad news is I can't get all 3 in the cover of this building, and there's a blizzard wizard right about here. So it's a risk, but it's a risk I've got to take. So turn 5, the archer unit charged into my weapon team here, which is bad news because it gets him further than he would have gone. Well, no, if he'd gone double forward, maybe not. But then he's left them alive, so this is quite a sensible ploy. Right, we're going to come back to this screenshot later because this is incredibly important to the outcome of the game. Okay, so in my last turn, I have... Is this the last turn? This was turn 5. I think I've skipped, so I think we were really, really rushing. Yeah, we are rushing, so he's killed them. I think that weapon team died. Do we have a screenshot of that? We do not. So the weapon team died. Woohoo. So I moved these slaves up here because unit strength, and I can't believe they're still alive. And then I moved my demon at the end of turn 4 down here. Yeah, because at this point, this guy was facing that way. This guy was here, right here actually, facing me. So I was here, and I flew that way. So I exposed my rear, but he can't charge me because there's not enough room. He doesn't want to charge me, of course. What he wants to do is flame me. All right. And so turn 5, then what he's done, he's just flown his Dracons straight 20 because he needs to get them unit strength. That's what I expected. I expected to get that unit into my half. Okay. Oh, we didn't see the outcome of the Shamblers. That's a shame. You can see it on this screenshot. 2 points of damage. Still didn't manage to kill or waver them. Disaster. Disaster. Right, so Shambler's still alive. I could cry. Honestly, I could cry. So I'd put my demon over here because then his rear was exposed and he's shielded from the woods. So the Dracons at that time were here, like that. So I didn't want to get shouted for them, but then in his turn he's shoved them all the way down here because he wants to get unit strength into my half, which is smart. Okay, so I moved the shock troops here to shield, and the blight were here. Okay, so I've not pushed them quite as far forward as I like, but I still figure I can get them here, them here. Okay, and I've got 6 unit strength. Win! 9 unit strength if you count the claw shots. At the moment, he's got 3 dragons and the Dracons, which is 5. He's also got the Shambler still alive, which is 7. And that Archer Horde is looking depressingly close to my half. which is 10, right? So that would be a 10-9. So I need to kill something. I can't reach anything at this point. Very frustrating. So he's moved 2 dragons here. There's one here who's peeping out. And there's one here that he's turned around, obviously, to blast me. Which he does with Fireball 15. So these archers have now moved down the table, not having a lot left to shoot. And he's jumped this dragon. So I think he's killed the slaves on this turn. I think he just put the shamblers maybe into the slaves. And then this dragon, he's jumped over here into this wood. Yeah, so that's where he is now. This is a big problem. That's right, shamblers going to the slaves. And this dragon jumps into the wood. This is exceptionally bad, because let's go back to this screenshot. What we have now is another dragon here. Yeah, so I have a dragon, and a dragon. My demon's here about to be blown up because he's going to do breath there, and he's going to do fireball there. And then I've got my 2 hordes that I need to stay alive, and I've got 3 dragons. We'll talk about that in a minute. So there you go. That is a total of 18, I think, no, 16 damage onto my demon. He's only he's a 17-19 with that horde there. So, right, and then this wizard casts, I think, Fireball onto my last remaining weapon team, doing 5 damage. And then the heal wizard, oh no, maybe she blizzarded then. Combination anyway, they healed 2 points of damage off of the archers, down to 11. That is where the demon was, so obviously I failed my nerve roll. He is gone. I've lost my general. That's 3 tournament points to my opponent. Boo! However, the plan is still in place. That was the slave horde who have finally died. Oh, that's the last regiment of slaves. That's it. The last regiment of slaves is there. So I think he breathed them with the dragon that was facing that way. And finished them off, so that's 2 unit strength I don't have, but I wasn't really expecting to have it, so it's probably okay. And that's where the weapon team was. I think this weapon team survived. How did I possibly survive? Did he forget to roll it? Don't know. Did he double one it? Can't remember. Anyway, so and then the shamblers killed the slaves, so there you go. An extra 4 points of damage, and they are now kapoosh. They're dead. Oh no, there you go. He did kill it. Maybe it was this turn he charged it. Who knows? It's all very confusing to me. And it was, it was a whole nearly a week ago. So that was an obscene amount of damage onto that weapon team. So I now have no weapon teams. I just have a standard bearer. So onto my turn 6. So realizing I had to get them across, I took a gamble that Blizzard wasn't going to hit. It doesn't hit a lot, so I guessed. Apologies for the road noise if you can hear that in the background. It's just it was warm, so I've opened the window. So I kept one behind the cover and I pushed 2 here and just prayed he didn't shoot one off because I need those 3 unit strength. And this blurry screenshot is my nightmare. So the other thing, this standard bearer moved over here because my last hope is to shoot off this archer unit with 11 wounds. Otherwise, he's got 3 unit strength there. Okay. So this is what I ended up doing from. You remember before where we had the hordes? I had 6 minutes left on the clock here in turn 6. So that's quite a lot given how close it's been previously. I spent an absolute age with templates trying to work out how the hell I was going to do this. So I had the Shockshoot Horde was originally here, and the Blight Horde was here. Yeah, and I just want in my head my plan, right? Keep them both alive. Keep them both alive. However, it turns out I can't count because what I was thinking was I need 3 from this one, 3 from this one, and all I've got left 3 from the claw shots. That's 9. Yeah. So if he's got 3 dragons, 1, 2, 3. He's got his Dracons, an extra 2. So that's 5. He's got 2 from the Shambler Horde. That's 7. And then 10. So 10 from his Horde, right? But there's a reasonable chance I might be able to shoot them off. All I can hope is that I can shoot them off. So, it's a possibility. If I can't shoot them off with that standard bearer, both hordes need to survive. So what I was trying to do, minimize damage, because we have a dragon here. That's his. You can see his arc. There's a dragon literally like that facing here, and we have a dragon facing here. The Dracons are facing the wrong way. They are out of the game. However, these 3 dragons present me a massive problem because from the positions that I was in, which if I draw it again, was like this and like this. This is very poor drawing. I apologize. I can't get out. I was trying to find a way, maybe they end up back to back. I couldn't do it. So what I settled for was I gave him a choice. So I put the shock troops into the woods here. So he had the choice of a hindered rear and an unhindered front. And I got I turned the blight so that he had an unhindered flank and a hindered front, right? And that's the choice I offered him. Looking back on it now, I really should have just gone for broke and shoved the blight as far as I offered this hindered flank, but given the blight all the way up here. And I'll tell you why. Because he chose the blight. Okay, he chose the unhindered flank and the hindered front. And then what's this? Who knows what that is? I know what that is. That's the archer horde, which I did manage to shoot off, which is great. So I managed to get him with a diadem, which lost him 3 unit strength, which is brilliant. These guys, so this is Blizzard. Blizzard did hit 3 points of damage, and it did not kill them. Oh, there you go. There's the archer horde. I don't know what the other screenshot was. There you go. The archer horde was here, and my brilliant diadem, a standard bearer, managed to kill them, which is fantastic. So that's where they ended up. Right, so unsurprisingly, this killed this unit, and even worse, it allowed him to reform. So this guy went backwards 2. This guy was already the halfway line of the board is like this. Yeah, and that's what I mean. The blight horde, if it had ended up over here, and he'd chosen either that or the shock troop horde, one of them may well have died, but he'd have lost 2 unit strength in doing it, and that was worth me losing 3 unit strength. 2020 hindsight. It's a wonderful thing. So then on my turn 6, all I had left to do, so I had no blight horde, so I sent the shock troops into these archers. I did not kill them, and this is how he ended up. So by reforming all of these, so this one didn't even attack, it literally just turned and went into my half. In my half, he's got 2 unit strength, 3, 4, 5 unit strength. Oh, that's the last slide. He's got 6, 7 from the Shamblers, whereas I have 1 Horde and 3 Claw Shot, which is 6. So it's a 7-6 loss right at the last minute. I woke up at 5 o'clock the next morning going, why didn't I just push the Blight Horde into his half? Anyway, 2020 hindsight. You know, there was no guarantee I was going to diadem off that Horde, I suppose. So there is that to think about. All the same, I was kicking myself because even worse, I'd only killed I'd killed the horses and the archer horde. So I actually only got 2 points for kills for that, and you get no points for a loss in this tournament. So I got 2. He, however, got 22 because he killed so much of my army. So yeah, an ignoble defeat at the end. So there was a mistake in the scoring, unfortunately. My round 3 scoring wasn't put correctly, so my official end point was 11th out of 22. But if I'd have been given the correct score, I would have been 8th. But there you go. That's what happens when you lose your last match. It was a really close game. It was very, very well played by my opponent. I'm filled with nothing but admiration. And that is the end of my tournament. So that's the end of the tournament and the end of the tournament report. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I think it was a really good tournament, actually. I really enjoyed it. It was a great atmosphere. Everyone went out for drinks the night before. There were some sore heads. If you want to hear more about the tournament, there is a countercharge episode coming up, a bumper countercharge episode in which Dan King and John Quayle recount their games. So you can hear from some actually good players. I do unfortunately recount my games again, but a much shorter version. So you might have to just fast forward through those bits. And there's lots of juicy tidbits, an interview with Tom Robinson. So check out Countercharge where we talk about that. I don't have a lot of complaints really about it. There's not a lot I would change. A lot of people complained about the first scenario. I understand that. It was a bit swingy. I liked all the other scenarios. I thought they were fine. I think the Kill the General is a nice twist at the end. So yeah, good tournament. Sharad, who organises them, is super. If you're in the UK, you should definitely come to Battlemasters next year. He's also running a tournament called Titan Wars, which is a 3,000 point battle. That's earlier in the year, and then Battlemasters will be around the same time, late July or late August, I think. It was a good time, and we'll see you next time on Death by Dragons.